many countries are there in the world? But the reality is more complicated than we think. Even though the same question is posed to multiple organizations, each one provides different answers. For example, if you ask the United Nations about this issue, they will answer that there are a total of 195 countries, including 193 official members and 2 observer states. If you ask FIFA this question, they will answer that there are currently 211 recognized national football associations. FIFA has far more members than the United Nations, as the organization accepts football associations from 23 countries that are not or are only partially recognized as sovereign states. For example, the 4 countries of the United Kingdom and China's 2 special administrative regions, Hong Kong and Macau. Similarly, if you ask the International Olympic Committee, IOC, this question, they will answer that the organization currently has 206 national Olympic committees as members. However, if you ask the US, they will say there are 196 countries, while Russia insists the number is 197. 192 is the answer from Pakistan. How many countries are there in the world today? Nation. A nation is an entity comprising 3 fundamental elements: a sovereign territory, a community of people inhabiting that territory, and a shared consciousness of its historical origins. The state is regarded as the foundation for the formation of laws and the international community, while also being an active participant in international relations. To fully enjoy all rights and fulfill all obligations as an independent state recognized by the international community. Nowadays, when we mention the concept of a nation, the first thing that often comes to mind is the image of an independent, sovereign country. However, globally, the concept of a nation also includes countries that are only partially or limitedly recognized. Member states and dependent territories are classified based on their degree of autonomy. It can be seen that most countries in the world today are sovereign, however, not all of them are members of the United Nations. A nation is built upon fundamental elements. The Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of States established the fundamental criteria for the formation of a state, which include: according to the recognition theory, a country wishing to become a subject of international law must fully meet all necessary conditions, including the requirement of a stable population. A nation must fulfill 3 fundamental criteria: clearly defined territory, a legitimate government, and the capacity to establish relations with other countries worldwide. Among these, a stable population, also referred to as permanent residence, is the foremost prerequisite. A nation cannot be established without a stable population. Additionally, this residential community needs to have legal obligations binding them together and with the general government. Citizens have both rights and responsibilities toward their country, sharing a common historical origin and a cultural bond with the land where they live. Therefore, people are the key factor, the foremost essential condition for building and developing a nation's governmental apparatus. Second, there must be clearly defined territory. Territory is an inseparable part of the earth, encompassing all its land, sea, airspace, and underground areas under that country. The territory of a country must be clearly defined through land borders with neighboring nations or areas not under the sovereignty of any state. At the same time, this country must be clearly represented on the world map with its precise geographical location and specific name. However, even if disputed territories may exist between nations, the determination of territorial elements must still be ensured. A country must have clearly defined territory under its sovereignty. From a legal standpoint, a country's territory is defined by its boundary demarcation line, also known as the national border. Other nations are not permitted to violate territorial sovereignty. Today, national borders are typically defined based on international treaties signed by member countries or according to each nation's legal regulations. Third, there must be a government. This is an essential element for operating a society and maintaining a nation's government, which is formed through the trust of the people. The government will hold power in enforcing domestic relations, specifically having the authority to govern the country across all 3 branches: legislative, executive, and judicial. At the same time, they play a pivotal role in determining the political destiny of the nation, freely choosing the political model, economic system, and cultural and social framework that best suit their country. Additionally, that government must hold external sovereignty, meaning it has the authority to represent the nation in international relations. Capable of establishing international legal relations. And the fourth point is the ability to engage in international relations. When a country meets all the necessary conditions for formation and development, it can participate as a fundamental entity in international relations. From this point onward, they officially become members of the community and international organizations, which means they have the right to establish and maintain foreign relations. Moreover, the country also possesses sufficient political, economic, cultural, and social potential to independently decide all matters related to its own affairs. Other countries have no right to interfere in this matter. At the same time, that country must fully respect and adhere to the fundamental principles of international law when engaging in international relations. Beyond declarative theory, constitutive theory also plays an extremely important role. A nation is only considered a legal entity in international law if and only if its sovereignty is recognized by at least one other nation. Therefore, newly established nations cannot immediately join the international community or be bound by international law. Additionally, recognized countries are not obligated to comply with international law when dealing with them. Thus, a sovereign and independent nation is one that holds supreme power over a defined territory. At the same time, international law stipulates that a sovereign state must have a permanent population in a defined territory. This government is independent, not subordinate to any other government, and has the right to establish diplomatic relations with other nations. It is often assumed that a sovereign nation is synonymous with an independent one. That country can still exist even if it is not recognized by other sovereign nations. A prime example is the case of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. However, unrecognized nations often face significant obstacles in establishing diplomatic relations with sovereign states. When referring to a specific political entity, the concept of a sovereign nation can also denote a member state or a dependent territory. Independent nations. Currently, there are a total of 205 independent countries in the world, including 193 nations that are official members of the United Nations. The two non-member observers of the General Assembly are the Holy See, Vatican, and the State of Palestine, along with 10 other countries, including some that are members of United Nations specialized agencies. That is the Republic of Kosovo, the Cook Islands, and Niue. The remaining countries fall under the category of limited recognition, among which Taiwan is recognized by only 11 out of the 193 United Nations member states. The Vatican, as an observer, recognized the independence and established diplomatic relations. The Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is recognized only by Turkey, a UN member state. Additionally, the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, the Republic of Abkhazia, and the Republic of South Ossetia are all states recognized by only a handful of countries. The remaining two countries are the Republic of Somaliland and the Moldavian Pridnestrovian Republic, only recognized by countries that are not part of any United Nations organization. However, out of the 193 United Nations member states, 6 countries have not yet been fully recognized as independent. That is the People's Republic of China, North Korea, South Korea, Armenia, and the Republic of Cyprus. At the same time, the State of Palestine, a United Nations observer, has also not been widely recognized by the international community. Currently, Palestine is recognized by 138 United Nations member states and the Holy See, Vatican. Other countries, including Sion, have not yet recognized the State of Palestine. Thus, out of a total of 205 sovereign countries and territories in the world, only 15 nations have received limited recognition. These are countries and territories with special political regimes or legal statuses. Aside from the specific countries already mentioned, the world also includes some nations formed from multiple territories regarded as separate countries. Member state. This concept is often used in cases where a country is part of a larger political entity. As a sovereign nation, its constituent states shall not be defined by any legal concept. Topping the list is the Kingdom of Denmark. This is a country whose territory is under the sovereignty of Denmark, with the Danish monarch serving as the head of state. The Kingdom of Denmark consists of its mainland territory in Europe in 2 autonomous regions, the Faroe Islands in the North Atlantic and Greenland in North America. If the total area including all territories is calculated, the Kingdom of Denmark would reach 2,210,570 square kilometers, making it the 12th largest country in the world. Throughout history, both of these territories have been under the rule of the Kingdom of Denmark since 1397, when the Kalmar Union was officially established. In 1814, these two territories were officially incorporated into the Kingdom of Denmark. However, thanks to their unique historical and cultural identity, these regions now enjoy significant autonomy. In addition to its mainland territory in Europe, the hexagonal-shaped nation also includes the French Polynesia Overseas Territory. This area comprises 121 islands stretching over 2,000 kilometers across the South Pacific Ocean, with a total land area of 3,521 square kilometers. In 1946, Polynesia officially became an overseas territory of France under the Constitution of the Fourth Republic. In 1983, this territory officially joined the Pacific Community, a regional development organization. Since March 28, 2003, French Polynesia has become an overseas collectivity of the French Republic under the provisions of its constitution. In 2004, this region was officially granted administrative autonomy, with its own president and recognized as a member state within the Federation. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland is often abbreviated as the United Kingdom. This is a country in Europe, formed from 4 territories: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. With a total area of 244,376 square kilometers and a population of approximately 68.12 million people. Although the United Kingdom is a unified and sovereign state, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland are still considered separate countries. Countries within a country. The Kingdom of the Netherlands, also commonly known simply as the Netherlands. This is an independent nation, formed from multiple territories united under the rule of the Dutch king. This kingdom is not a federation but a centralized monarchy, with its main territory being the European Netherlands. Along with that are several smaller territories in the Caribbean region, such as Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten. If all these territories are included, the Kingdom of the Netherlands has an area of 42,531 square kilometers. In reality, the majority of the issues concerning the Kingdom of the Netherlands fall under the jurisdiction of the Dutch government in Europe. Therefore, Aruba, Curaçao, and Sint Maarten rely on the Netherlands in areas such as foreign policy and defense. Additionally, these 3 territories have their own parliaments, granting them a certain degree of autonomy. Under the Dutch constitution, the government recognizes these territories as part of the country. If we consider administrative units as integral parts that form a sovereign nation and are subordinate to the state, dependent territories typically enjoy significant autonomy. Throughout history, most colonies have been regarded as dependent territories. However, not all autonomous entities are considered dependent territories. Certain territories possess unique geographical positions, guaranteed through international treaties and agreements. From this, a certain degree of autonomy was established. These entities are sometimes regarded as dependent territories. Yet it is regarded by nations as an inseparable part of their governance. Besides the member countries, the United Kingdom also includes 3 crown dependencies. That is Guernsey, the Isle of Man, and Jersey, along with 14 other overseas territories scattered across the world. With a total area of up to 1,727,570 square kilometers, these are primarily territories that belong to the former British Empire and still exist to this day. These territories have gained independence or voted to maintain their dependent status. Except for Gibraltar, this territory is not an integral part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Most of the UK's overseas territories have self-governing internal administrations, while the central government control over defence and foreign affairs. Additionally, the British Antarctic Territory is also part of the UK's claim in Antarctica. In addition, there are territories on the island of Cyprus and areas in the Indian Ocean used as military bases. The British overseas territories all have sparse populations. Regarding the overseas territories of the French Republic, currently, besides French Polynesia, This hexagonal country also possesses 12 overseas territories scattered across the globe. Most of these territories are legacies from the French colonial era, and to this day, they remain under the sovereignty of the French Republic. Currently, France's overseas territories cover a total area of 120,396 square kilometers with a population of approximately 2.84 million people, spread across diverse geographical regions. The southern lands and French Antarctic territories are among the regions without permanent inhabitants. This region consists of archipelagos in the Indian Ocean, including the Crozet Islands, the Kerguelen Islands, the St. Paul and Amsterdam Islands, along with other islands in the Indian Ocean. The Adélie Lane region is also part of the territory claimed by the Paris government in Antarctica. Currently, these areas serve as pristine wilderness zones, supporting scientific research efforts. Dependent territory of Naui. Currently, this nation has 3 dependent territories, all located in the southern hemisphere and entirely uninhabited. These 3 territories include Bouvet Island, Peter I Island, and Queen Maud Land. Queen Maud Land is a territory spanning 2.7 million square kilometers, located on the Antarctic continent and claimed by Norway as a dependent territory. In addition, Norway also has sovereignty over the Svalbard archipelago in the Arctic. Here's the natural English translation of your Vietnamese text. Currently, the United States has 14 unincorporated territories under its administration, with a total area of 22,294 square kilometers. Among the 14 unincorporated territories, they can be divided into 2 main groups, including the unincorporated organized territories and the American Samoa Islands, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands are all territories of the United States. Along with that are the unincorporated and unorganized territories, including Barker Island and Holland Island, Chavis Island, Sanjo Johnston Island, Sanjo Kingman-type, and Sanjo Midway Island, Sanjo Panmira Island, Navasar Island, and Wake Island. Next are the dependent territories of New Zealand. In addition to the Cook Islands and Niue, New Zealand has 2 other territories. Among them, Rhodes Island is the territory that this country claims sovereignty over in Antarctica. The Tokelau Islands are a dependent territory with limited self-governance. Currently, the United Nations lists Tokelau as a non-self-governing territory. This archipelago is also moving towards establishing a free association relationship with New Zealand. Australia's external territories. This area consists of 6 regions, including Christmas Island, the Cocos Islands, and the Asmo and Kathia archipelagos. The Coral Sea Islands, Heard Island and the McDonald Islands, along with Norfolk Island. Along with that are the territorial sovereignty claims in Antarctica. Currently, all states and territories of this country are participating, except for Australia's Jervis Bay Territory. Each has a self-governing administration with full executive, legislative, and independent judicial systems. Meanwhile, other states only serve as local governments and are subject to oversight by federal government agencies. Additionally, China's special administrative regions are also considered a form of dependent territory. This is one of the administrative units directly under the central government of China, and are inseparable parts of the nation of 1 billion people. Currently, mainland China has 2 special administrative regions, Hong Kong and Macau. Both special administrative regions enjoy extensive autonomy and have independent political systems. 1 country, 2 systems. Some countries have established diplomatic relations with the Chinese government. Additionally, at major sporting events such as the Olympic Games or the Asian Games, these 2 special administrative regions each have their own separate and independent teams. They participated under the respective names of Hong Kong, China, and Macau, China. And this result will not be added to the overall total for mainland China. You thought this video ended here? You're completely wrong. There are still countries in the world that exist in the form of unions. This term refers to small countries that maintain official relations with a larger power. This can be considered a gentle and friendly form of protection, or a post-colonial style protectorate, or an alliance where members do not have equal status. Specifically, smaller partners will delegate authority to larger ones. certain powers are often monopolized by sovereign nations, such as the authority to decide on matters of diplomatic relations and national defense security. In return, the major powers will support smaller nations in gaining significant benefits. For example, market penetration capability. Ladies and gentlemen, this concept is represented by 8 affiliated countries. The countries include Vatican City, San Marino, Monaco, Liechtenstein, Andorra, Samoa, Nauru, and Kiribati. Has transferred a portion of its foreign policy authority to other countries. Moreover, most of these countries do not maintain a military force, or only retain a very small military force. The protection of the country should be entrusted to other nations. For example, Liechtenstein, despite having a head of state who represents the country in international relations. But the greater share of diplomatic responsibility falls to Switzerland. Protecting the country is also Switzerland's responsibility. Next, we must mention the Kingdom of New Zealand, which includes both the Cook Islands and Niue. In foreign relations, both sides operate as independent and sovereign nations. Although not yet an official member of the United Nations, but both had joined the organization's affiliated agencies. The New Zealand government only has the authority to act on behalf of the Cook Islands and Niue in the fields of foreign affairs and defense, when the authorities of these two territories propose. Next are the countries that have a free association relationship with the United States. Currently, there are 3 countries that are members of the United Nations, including the Marshall Islands, the Federated States of Micronesia, and the Republic of Palau. Link to the U.S. Embassy. Through the Compact of Free Association, commonly abbreviated as COFA. Accordingly, the United States will grant these nations internationally recognized rights and the right to control the territory under its sovereignty. At the same time, Washington will also provide grant assistance and the accessibility of social services for domestic citizens under COFA's sovereignty, used as a strategic military base. And these nations also agreed to place themselves under the protection of the United States. How many countries are there in the world? It depends on each person's perspective. But the most accurate and widely accepted answer is, there are currently 205 independent sovereign countries in the world, including member countries, and is not a member of the United Nations. Do you have any other answers for this question? Don't forget to leave your comment below. Now, it's time to say goodbye, and I'll see you all in the upcoming videos.